So you're talking about noise versus signal. You're talking about seeing value and identifying the appropriate value. One of the questions I have for you is you and I have been talking about blockchain and the role of blockchain and DLTs in pharma now at least for 3 years, and that conversation has been going on several years before you and I started having these conversations. And I know a lot of startups and a lot of mid-sized companies are going, yes, this is the direction we want to go, because that's where the ball's going to be. To quote, what's his name? Wayne Gretzky, don't look at where the puck is, look at where the puck's going to be. My question to you is, I'm looking at where the puck is this second. Do you see large pharma actually doing things in DLT the second, or is it more, what is the future going to look like so far?
Yeah, well, look, let's be honest. Yeah, in my opinion, but I think there's plenty of empirical evidence to back this up over a course of 50 years, not just last day or two or a year or two. Pharma's not going to want to do this, right?
Okay.
Quite clearly, they don't. Okay. I think that the opaqueness, helps to have price monopolies and have, and be able to essentially do things that are incredibly inefficient and more or less get away with it, right? And I'm not talking about any one company; it's an industry-wide thing. We've seen healthcare, it's so. Why would any company want to voluntarily do this? I think the answer is they probably wouldn't if you look at the financial incentives or disincentives. However, there's some new factors that are coming in. I think to me, the biggest thing, and I've been thinking about this a lot over the last several months, but certainly of recent times with the holidays, as I had time to kind of contemplate, just again, I think we all have to recharge and just do our homework, right? Because the space moves. So look, we're in a space where I think this idea that, for instance, in healthcare, it's just a B2B type of scenario or just a B2C is no longer true. I think it's much more of a B2B to C. There is an individual in there, right? And regardless of all the, I guess, hyperbole and sound bites about being patient-oriented and things like this, there's plenty of evidence, again, that's been largely just talk, that the actions, certainly the actions that manifest in people's like bonuses, like the big CEOs bonuses, and again, we have personal experience with this, they just don't manifest that. That's just not reflected in those actions. But I think now there's particularly from regulators and other outside pressures, and maybe it's fear of missing out, and also, frankly, individuals finally understanding that they have a say in this, and there are laws that actually directly kind of support them, right? Whether it's GDPR, whether it's TCPA, whether it's kind of like what's going on with FIRE and enabling individuals to get the data. So I think there's an understanding that actually it's not just one business. Like if you look at the supply chain for kind of generic drugs, which is what you and I worked on a lot back in the day, that it's not just the two businesses or a business and its partners, CROs or whatever, being involved, that there is actually a consumer. Certainly is the case for clinical research, right? We see this a lot. And again, we always hear, well, clinical recruitment is very expensive. It's hard to find, the demographics of people you're looking for and all of this, but there's a systematic reason for it, right? And I think people are finally seeing, well, look, we can do it better. And I think there's this idea of kind of, well, we can use data and big data. That's been the thing that people have thrown around and have spoken about. But fundamentally, that's not it. It's much more about engaging with individuals, right? Big data can direct you down somewhere, but big data isn't the thing that's going to engage you or provide incentivizations for like me as a potential recruit to engage, right? So all to say, I think that's what I'm seeing. I see this like B2B to C, kind of continuum emerging, which I think is then another reason, not the only reason, but another reason why somebody, particularly some of these forward-looking farmers, and particularly some of the new, if you like, the new entrants and the more modern digitized entrants and the new CROs may want to do this because it allows them to differentiate, it allows them to be compliant, but it also allows them to actually build, and I think to me this is a very, very important concept, build direct relationships with individuals. because I think we're beginning to understand with this Web 3.0 world that the individual engaging with individuals and understanding that there are rights that have to be maintained and at least monitored, and the individual also recognizing that that's the future. That's what we're talking about. Now, is it going to happen over the next year or two? I mean, definitely not, right? This is a very slow change industry, right? But I think there's also a real opportunity for Amazonification. Right? There's a real opportunity for some group of companies, and hopefully not Amazon or just Amazon. I think clearly they have enough savvy and political and financial capital to make it happen. But other people to kind of get in there and say, look, can we take these ideas of decentralized systems, decentralized architecture, decentralized like way of business, and build off of it and rely on cryptography, rely on computational proof of things, as opposed to just say, here's another intermediary that's going to kind of like act as our trusted, custodian. Because I think that will solve nothing. That will just be like another way of doing almost exactly what we're doing currently. So I'm optimistic. Obviously, you have to be if you're in this space, right? That's kind of the nature of it. But I think what you're seeing is, and again, I refer to the noise with the crypto and all these other things that are going on, but that creates this fear of missing out, right? There's a FOMO element for sure that's going on. But also, frankly, I think it creates an opportunity for individuals, through mass media and other means to kind of see that, whoa, that something is happening that is different to the usual things. Like the fact that, as example, you could have an account with, Celsius, and they might give you 17% interest on your crypto holdings. And good luck comparing that with the 0.01% you're going to get from Wells Fargo, right? I mean, it's the truth. So I think those kind of things are going to permeate people's, or hopefully they're going to enter people's thinking and say, what is really happening? And then understanding that as an individual, they actually, not only do they have rights, but if they're smart enough, if they're engaged enough, they could take those rights and actually use it as a benefit, as a collateral, as a means to hold people accountable, including and especially in the world of clinical research and healthcare, which is, so wildly inefficient and incredibly, I mean, in many ways, it's criminal. Like, I mean, we have talked about this. It shouldn't be this bad. For the amount of money that in the United States we spend in the life sciences healthcare space, and for the kind of just horrendous like results that we get, that's again empirically, statistically, in the very worst around the world, something is completely awry, right? I mean, you can't equate the two. It would make no sense. As an example, imagine if I were the business, if like, I'm running a business, right? I'm the CEO, and you're like, as an investor, you're pumping millions and millions of dollars into me. And every year my return is worse and worse. You'd never be in business. I mean, you'd be kicked out. You'd be laughed at. Yet we have kind of created this numbed condition where it's okay to be like this bad at what we do as an industry. Right. To me, those things are just like, they have to be addressed. And frankly, people like you and I have to do the addressing, because I don't think the CEO of these companies, they have any incentive to kind of really do that, because clearly they're making a lot of money. They're pretty happy doing what they're doing.